want to teach you how you can automate your quilt piecing. If you've got a stack of 500 half square triangles or 2.5-inch squares that you need to sew together, this is the way to do it. I'm going to show you how you can program in on a variety of different machines the stitching length that will get you to start and end exactly on your block or triangle that you're doing. Hi, I'm Sarah from sewingmastery.com, and I do free video tutorials and online courses for many different brands of machines. But this is a program that we've actually had on a variety of machines for years. But I wanted to take the time to really show you how you set it up, what you're looking for, and how to adjust it as you have different sizes of blocks or triangles to stitch. Now, this topic kind of got brought to my attention once again because we were at a sewing retreat and I overheard somebody say, I have to sew together 500 half square triangles. And we always say, you know, but who's counting? But that's a lot of pieces. And when you're just sitting there mindlessly sewing, and especially when you're at a sewing retreat, you kind of want to do more talking than sewing. If you set your machine up for what I'm going to show you, you can actually do both, and very efficiently, because what it's going to do is start at the beginning, end at the end, stop with your needle down, let you put the next piece in, and away you go. It will always end at the end of your pieces. So remember, if you do have 500 half square triangles to do, as soon as they're sewed together, now you only have 250 to deal with. You do that next step that your pattern has you do, and now you're down to 125. Before you know it, your blocks and your pieces have come together, and you're almost close to finishing your quilt. So let's get started. We are going to set up a variety of machines, a Bernina, a Viking, and a FOF, using a Patchwork Program or the memory to put in the length of stitches that you need to do your piece. And you'll be even able to save it, so next time you don't have to reset it up. You can just go ahead, pick up your memory, look for the one that is for 2.5-inch squares, and pick it and pick up where you left off. So fun. Now, I mentioned that we do online courses and free video tutorials. So if you would like me to send you a personalized list of which videos and courses are right for you and your machine, drop me an email at info@sewingmastery.com with your make and model of machine, and I'll put together a personalized list just for you. We ask you right now to stop. Click that like button. That is your way of saying thank you for the free information that we are giving. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you know when new videos always arrive. Let's get started. Our first example is going to be on the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3. And the only reason I'm starting with this is because this is the current machine that I am filming all the free video tutorials on. So it's the one currently set up. We will be working in another Viking. And what you're going to see here is off and on some of the FOF machines as well. Start by going in and picking your straight stitch. And if you want, move the stitch length down to 2.0. Now there's a couple ways to do this. You can actually get a quick idea of what the length is going to be in millimeters by measuring your quilt blocks. So these blocks are pre-cut 2.5 inches, and we are seeing that they are about 65 millimeters. Now, if you take 65 divided by a 2.0 stitch length, you're going to be in that range of 32 to 33 millimeters long. The other way we can do is just go down to Stitch Repeat and select the Patchwork Program. Now when you do this, the first time that you actually sew, you're going to sew and then touch the reverse button when you get to the end of the block. So the machine will be counting how many stitches, and then it will say this is how many stitches it took, and this is what you get. Now, here's a little trick about the Viking and FOF machines, which I absolutely love. I have unthreaded the machine. Here's a little trick. If you start sewing with no thread in the machine, it doesn't alarm out. So I am actually going to show you this process. Use the block as our example, but you are not going to see any stitching happening. But what I'm going to do is dial in the exact points for starting and stopping, and how I'm going to adjust on screen if it needs to be lengthened or shortened just a hair to the ideal size. You can do this with the start-stop button and maybe a slightly slower speed, or you can use your foot control, whatever you want to do. Honestly, once I get this set up, I have been known to just sew using the start-stop button because it's just going to sew and then stop and then sew and stop, and it's just absolutely perfect. I'm going to put the presser foot down, and I am going to eventually have the needle stop in the down position, which I can go ahead and do now. I've also set it so the needle is down, but the fabric is in front of the needle. So I'm not so much worried about the 1/4 inch seam allowance just yet, but I am kind of moving my fabric off to the side just to give you a little idea. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm manually sewing, so I'm using my foot control all the way down. We're going to touch the reverse button on the front of the machine. Once my needle has cleared the fabric, touch it, and now that length is programmed. Notice once I push the reverse button, it gives me the exact length of stitching that you will see. And remember, your stitching on screen matches your what you're going to get. So we can see that we are right in that category. Plus, we see right down here, we're around 27 repeats. Let's see if we have nailed the length that we're going for. Here's how I know when I'm spot on. The needle has actually ended in air, and I can take the fabric out. Now, I know this isn't the way you actually do chain piecing, but what I'm going to do is show you that my next piece will come right up to the needle. We're going to step on our foot control or press the start-stop button and just sew until it stops. I can tell my needle is in the fabric just by one stitch. So I'm going to lengthen the repeats for one extra stitch at the end. Let's try it one more time. Now you can see why I was doing this without thread, so I can get a feel for where it's going to begin and end. If you want a little bit more stitching in between your blocks, make your machine do 1 or 2 extra stitches prior to it completing and stopping. If you want to save this length, touch Save, give it a name, and then you'll be able to return back to this exact length at any time. Now, if you don't have the Patchwork program on your machine, I want to show you how you can set it up in the memory of a Husqvarna Viking. On more traditional Vikings, we can use the programming mode, change the stitch to 2.0, and then add as many stitches as you need. If you touch and hold the duplicate, you can type in, let's say, 32 stitches, and we can test that length to see if you have enough. Also, put in the stop. That means as you start and stop, it will stop for you. You probably don't want to add a cut because you're just going to keep chain piecing. If this is too long or too short, what you're going to do, you're going to go ahead and stitch, but if it needs any adjustments, look for your edit option. This will bring you right back into where you were, allowing you to maybe delete or add a couple stitches and then test the length on your block or triangle that you're going to do. Go ahead and confirm that. And again, if you do want to save that length, I've already saved one in here of a 2.5 inch square. That way it can always live there and you don't ever have to reprogram it again. On the 790 Pro and the brand new Bernina 990, we have a new feature that allows programming in repeats up to 99 times. So this is another way that we can do this exact same thing. Obviously 99 is not what we need here, but we're going to start by setting your stitch length to 2 or your desired length. Go in here and type in the amount for the repeats. Go ahead and test that out. It stops at the end of the amount of stitches that you have programmed in, and you can do the exact same thing that we saw on the machines earlier, but you can totally get that to be exactly the length you want. I would go ahead and write down your settings and the repeats that it needs for different sizes of half square triangles and squares, and you will have a fun way to sit down and sew all those beginning pieces, triangles, blocks together without having to do much thinking. And on the Pfaff machines, we have the same similar patchwork program that we saw earlier. Pick a straight stitch, go into the patchwork program, and program in the length that you want. You'll also be able to save it so you can return back to that same setting without having to redo this again and again. Wasn't that amazing? I know, right? How did we not know that this was so easy to program and such an efficient way to sew our blocks together? You'll have to sit down at your machine, play around a little bit, see how you can program it in to your machine, and then what the possibilities are. Remember, you can send me an email at info@sewingmastery.com, and I'll make you a list of free video tutorials and online classes that would be right for you. I hope to see you in class soon.